to infinity and beyond.
Here from the DisKingdom Gaming Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Battlefront 2 beta, sharing our thoughts on what we've been playing and stuff. The beta was running for quite a while, actually. It was available early for if you pre-ordered it, and then available to everybody else, and then they extended it 2 days. I'll be honest, personally, I only got to play it from Sunday onwards because I was on vacation. And while I did have the pre-code to get onto I had an email come through with my pre-order information to get in. It's like, no, can't do it. So I was extremely glad when they extended it by 2 days because it gave me another night to be able to play it. My initial impressions are very, very polished in terms of it looks great. It does seem like it's had a lot of increase. I like the fact you could play the different modes. And generally, it was just quite cool because, I mean, you got to play on Tatterdana, Naboo. You also got to compete in space, and you also had all the single player stuff. So my first impressions are very, very well done. Very side was, I felt like especially in the multiplayer games, I felt like I felt so bad. I just felt like in terms of I was playing so poorly, and you'll probably see in the video here, once you guys are going to be watching. I just felt like I was being sniped off so much, just like. I was like that meme where there's just the kids just falling over as they come out of the tent. It was just that was the one thing I did at least prefer the arcade mode where I had a little bit more chance of surviving.
Yeah, unfortunately I did not get to play at all because I've been on a business trip since early last week, so I didn't get to play in the beta a bit, but I have been keeping track of everything that's been going on, and it looks great.
Yeah.
The graphics have been seeing the videos, been seeing, the GIFs and all that, where everything appears to be running smoothly. People who've been on the PC are reporting that it plays really well on the PC, so I'm looking forward to that. And I just wish I would have gotten home and to play it. I think at the time of recording this, there's still, about 12-ish hours time, but I'm going to be back home until well after this episode even airs. So.
Yeah, I mean, I got back late. I got back Sunday morning, but we'd been flying all overnight. So literally, been driving for 5 hours, got in, went up at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then literally just went on. First thing I did was fire up the PlayStation and start downloading, because I was thinking, at the time, it's ending tomorrow, I need to get this game downloaded for a few hours before I can play it tonight for a few hours. But luckily, then was able to spend Monday night playing it as well. So I've put a good 4 or 5 hours into the beta. It would have been nice to have, obviously, personally, it would have. But there's also that thing of, we're only about 5 weeks away from the game coming out. It's definitely got me hyped. I'm definitely I'm excited to play through all of the different modes and sort of seeing how they all work. I'm going to be honest, I feel like the online aspect is probably going to be something that I'm going to play around with, but I'm not going to be doing it very competitively because I do so poorly. That single player mode is what I'm really interested in, and I'm also interested to see how that whole arcade aspect works, because I feel like that is it's the stage of them going, okay, well, we're going to give you the arcade mode for single. I think they knew for a while that the online is great, but for casuals, they need something a bit easier.
Yeah, and as we have discussed many, many times, it's the single-player side of things that I'm really interested in. I might jump into multiplayer. I might play an officer, which is the healer support class. I know that's not yours. You're more the sniper class, but but that's why it works out so well.
Yeah.
If we were playing on the same platform, we'd actually make a decent team, although I gather they still need to tweak the squad a little bit.
To be honest, I read the new Inferno Squad novel while I was on vacation. I actually read 3 Star Wars novels last week, Phasma and also Thrawn as well, or From. So it's kind of quite interesting now, having read the Inferno Squad. I'm a lot more excited about the single player mode because I now feel more invested in it already, because I actually probably end up spending more time reading Battlefront than I've played that Battlefront 2 at the moment. So I'm really excited about that. There was a couple of issues I have with the game in terms of obviously being sniped off and stuff. Again, still there's no point in seeing the 4 different classes. The heavy one seemed quite good if you are, especially in your last zone of maybe trying to get into a room or trying to defend something. That one's quite cool, I found. Sniper was good. The one game I was thinking was a bit odd was, I think it was Strike, where it was basically you had to pick up a piece of artifact from on Takodana, and if you were the rebels, you had to stop them from stealing it. But there was a bit of an issue with the location of where everyone spawns, so it's a little bit easier for one team than the other. But literally, a few times it was literally, I just felt like I was like a quarterback where you're like running in, grab it, and then I just ran to see if I could get it as far as I possibly could. Probably the rest of my team were going, stop it, you stop stealing it, we're waiting for someone better to take it up. But I felt like just grabbing it and running upstairs and then just running and seeing how far I could get it close to it. But imagine if you're part of a team, it might be a little bit more coordinated of what you can do. But that was a little bit of fun. It looks like with the beta, I didn't sit myself because I didn't get into the end of it, but they kind of slow drip fed the different modes each day for a few days.
I don't actually know much of anything about that.
Yeah.
I was mostly just paying attention to, the videos people were posting, watching all the cool stuff happen. But, in terms of what modes they had, I know they had, the Starfighter mode show up. I don't know if it was every single day and then all that fun stuff.
I think, I played on the space flight version. It's still that part of me that kind of wishes you had like sort of slow speed, not fast speed, and then you had the boost, because sometimes you feel like it's like I want to go a bit faster than this, but I can't. I was crashing constantly. I was doing pretty poorly. But generally, that was a lot of fun. Took a bit of time to get used to the flight mechanism because the controls, because that felt a little bit different. But that was a lot of fun. I think you're probably going to love that. Just trying to think some of the other things. The arcade mode where I was playing as Darth Maul and I had to take out like 30 enemies in like a minute. That was so much fun. I love doing that. That was a really cool challenge. And I like that. That's what I'm more interested in, is this offline mode that they seem to be boosting.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be true for both of us. I want the single player campaign, and then I want an offline arcade or skirmish mode that I can sink a number of hours into.
Yeah.
For me, even if I never jump into multiplayer, if I get, let's say between 10 and 12 hours between all the various single player stuff, I'll have considered this game worth it. Yeah,
well, I'm in that same boat of having someone that picked up Destiny 2 just before I went away. I'm only like 3-4 hours into it. For me, it's like I'll play the single player stuff, and once I get to, I'm not interested in all the playing online. But Star Wars Battlefront has that same feeling of, if you have the new characters and you have all the offline stuff. I am really looking forward to it. I think that single player aspect is what I'm most interested in, because it's that odd thing of, I do like playing first person shooters, but I've always tended to prefer the single player aspect. The story modes of Ghost Recon or Halo, or I've always tried to play through them. Sometimes I've not always finished the games. I'm definitely very much in that casual zone. So I think that aspect of Battlefront 2 is going to be a lot more fun.
Yeah, and we both have read Inferno Squad now. I really enjoyed it. I read it quite some time ago, so it's not as fresh in my memory. But continuing the adventures of Iden Versio and the remainders of her squad definitely has a lot of appeal to me. I want to see where they go with it. I actually kind of hope that we don't end up with a scenario where these characters end up defecting to the New Republic. I want them to stay Imperial. Yeah,
there's that kind of thing of like, it's sort of like, don't turn bait. Do not sympathise with them, because like I said, I think that was definitely the difference. Last week, I'm definitely in that mode of seeing a lot more. All 3 books I read were very much from the Empire side of things rather than the other way around. So it's definitely cool with that. There was some issue with Star Wars Battlefront 2, which very much caught all the headlines. I was watching quite a few YouTube videos and stuff last night to kind of catch up on what everybody else was thinking of it. This whole star cards, battle points, and primarily these loot boxes, which have very much at the moment the term of pay to win, where people are buying these boxes and getting massive upgrades on their weapons. I don't know necessarily. It's like the point system. It's probably not as good for me, because I'm not getting as many points. Whereas if I found a little token, it was a little bit easier. But yeah, there was a real backlash to the game of how these loot boxes have gone from being a bonus to being, you get an advantage by buying stuff through them, and they might have to tone that down a bit. I don't know if they've gone a little bit too far. A lot of people were saying if this wasn't Star Wars, this game would be dead in the water for this.
Yeah, and based on what I've read, based on what I've seen, that's absolutely true. If they stay with the method that they're using in the beta,
yeah,
I would be highly surprised if they didn't make adjustments. From what we saw in a leaked video that then got pulled, which was the Camino video, it looks like they're going to have a lot of different ways to get the star cards, and then also the loot crates that you buy they'll have more options. Like you can get a Starfighter loot crate, which obviously focus on Starfighter star cards, and each of the 4 classes will have their own. In my opinion, that's still not ideal. I really don't think that you should have game-changing aspects in loot crates. I mean, that's the one thing in Overwatch where loot crates are the big thing. It's spray paints, skins for your characters, stuff like that. There is nothing that changes how powerful your characters are, and that's important.
No, I mean, I was sort of reading. I was like looking at all this stuff, and then they're going, okay, yeah, it's bad from my point of view. It's bad from the point if there are opponents on an online team that have got all these major guns and they keep sniping me off and keep killing me within one. I mean, that's the one thing I don't like. This like one blast and you're dead thing, because you've got no chance to run for cover or like even get at which point that gets frustrating and you just stop playing. All right, so that's my aspect. This whole thing of grinding out and leveling up characters and getting shot, like this whole like leveling. I don't care. I'm not interested in any of this at all. It's like the player's character. You go in and he shoots. I don't need to level up. I don't need get precious metals and change them and trade them. I hate all that aspect in the games that they keep bringing in because it's boring. I'm just not interested in that kind of concept of gaming. It doesn't interest me. So, it's like all these loot boxes. The only thing I was really interested in was getting the points to be able to play as the different characters and play as, the heroes. I mean, I ended up as a jumper and ended up dying within like 5 seconds of spawning. Now, some people, if they're into the game, you might understand it all and they'll get going. But from my point of view, like, this just isn't necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the developers, not just EA and these guys working on this, but in general, because we're seeing loot boxes in more and more and more games. Shadow of War has loot boxes. The Call of Duty series has loot boxes. Hell, I'm sure Assassin's Creed has loot boxes at this point. And a lot of I thought I read that. And a lot of these companies are trying to figure out how to implement them, and they need to find that delicate balance between, appealing to the gambling aspect, the people who have to do that just one more, spend a couple dollars, basically the free-to-play whales, and which is a oxymoron statement, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then regular gamers like you and I, where we still want to occasionally get that loot box, I got something cool out of it, but not ruin the gameplay experience. And this seems to be way so far over the line that they're going to have to dial it back a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are still in that testing mode. I mean, they're trying to work out. I mean, this whole thing of like getting rid of the season pass and bringing loot boxes, microtransactions in. I mean, there was this whole thing recently, like with the NBA game, had something very similar with the currency of the game. They're trying to work out a way of funding games in a different way, because the standard $40 or £50 game that hasn't gone up in 30 years, and they're trying. So I can understand where they're coming from. I mean, I picked up Destiny the other day for £30. I've got Mario and WWE coming later this month, for 40 odd pound. So they are looking at ways of trying to boost it up. And season passes, there was a blowback. People didn't like what they were doing. It didn't. Some of think, there's not too much. But on that note, it's difficult. But it's it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you have to see both sides. Obviously, as you said, prices on games haven't changed, but the production costs have gone up massively on AAA games like this, and again, Shadow of War and Assassin's Creed and whatnot. The amount of money that these companies have to inject into these games are reaching blockbuster movie levels, and this is not currently a sustainable product platform one way or another. Whether it's loot boxes or season passes or whatever the next big thing is going to be, they need to find ways of making money, and we as consumers have to make sure that we get our best value for our money, whether that means buying microtransactions or not. I know personally, at least for this game, for Shadow of War, for all the current games that have loot boxes, I am not going to spend extra money on them. And so the game is going to get subsidized by the whales, just the way mobile games do. And that's just the way it is. Now, one thing that the cynic in me is expecting is that EA probably knew in advance how much blowback they were going to get on this, with no intention of keeping it this way for the final game. So when they finally do, announce how the star cards are going to work or the loot boxes are going to work in the final version of the game that we're all going to get in about a month, it will be such an improvement over this that even if it's not a good system, even if it is still a invasive or predatory system, we'll just be like, oh, well, at least it's not the beta version. Cool. This is so much better. I'm happy. And it might have been a system that we wouldn't have been happy with if we didn't have this negative experience to compare it to. But that's just the cynic in me. We'll have to wait and see what the final results come out to be.
As someone that's brought the elite version of I think it was like £70, it's a bit like, no, I am paying £70 for this, £60-70 for this game. It's like, I am expecting to get, a certain amount of it without having to buy extra stuff, because it's like I am putting, that thing of I am buying the game. It's not like a mobile game, so there is that thing of going, you might push it a little bit, but at the same time you have to offer enough value for that money as well. I think this game's going to deliver. I think it's going to be an epic shooter. I think it's going to be the big one, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I was only hearing yesterday, people were already complaining no one's playing Destiny, and there's already everyone's left it, and there's this big game season. People are jumping, and so it's will they be able to maintain it for a couple of weeks? Will it be months? Will it be years? Well, I guess we'll have to find out. But we'd love to know your thoughts on this. As per usual, you can comment below or get in touch with us on social media. You can also join our DisKingdom Gaming Facebook group as well. James, where can they find you?
You can find me heroiclegacy.com.
And on that note, guys, thank you very much for watching. See you guys soon. Later.
Inferno Squad out.
Out.